Welcome to another episode of SPL Express as we look ahead to what's in store in the Singapore Premier League this week. I'm Abhishek Ravikrishnan and I'm joined here by former pro Rish Roshan Rai. Match week 2 in the SPL concluded over the weekend and it saw the return of Brunei DPMM. But it wasn't a sweet return as they came up short against the Lion City Sailors, who ran out comfortable 3-1 winners. Faris Ramli bagged his second goal of the season as Tampines brushed past Tanjong Pagar 2-0. Balestier Khalsa picked up their first points of the season with a 3-1 win over the Young Lions, while Geylang staged a late comeback win over Hougang. So that means the Eagles are soaring high, sitting on top of the table having played a game more. They're a point ahead of the Sailors, who maintain their perfect record. Tampines Rovers are third, while Albrechts, Balestier and Hougang are all on 3 points. The Sailors' perfect start to the season is on the line though. They're away at Albrechts Negata on Thursday, while Young Lions play their first home game of the season up against Tampines Rovers. Friday sees another doubleheader as well. Tanjong Pagar entertain Geylang, while Brunei DPMM face Balestier. So it's just match week 3 in the SPL and we already have the big one, Albrechts Negata up against Lion City Sailors. The clash between the top two sides in Singapore football. Roshan, Albrechts come into this one having missed, or rather gotten a bye in the last match week. So they come in with 12 days of rest. Is that a good thing or bad thing for the White Swans?
I think for them it's a good thing. Last season they didn't start the campaign off very well because players were coming in at different times in the off-season. So sort of pre-season for them was disrupted and it was difficult to really get in the flow. Remember they lost the Community Shield last year to the Lion City Sailors. Then they ended up losing their first match of the season. So by their standard, it was a little bit of a slow start. Then there's also that series of draws that they picked up in the early stages of the campaign. So now I actually think that this gives them a little bit of time on the training ground to work together as a unit, work together as a team. I still think back to the answer that Kazuaki Yoshinaga gave after the Community Shield this season when a question was posed to him, how far along is the team in terms of how you want them to be playing? And he said only 10%. So hopefully they're up there to 30-40% now, or closer to whatever it is he wants out of this side. So yeah, it's definitely something that should help them going forward.
Now, one of the interesting angles to this game, or storylines rather, is Korai Tanaka playing up against his former team. How do you think that's going to pan out for Tanaka?
I think he's going to be fired up to want to do something against them. I mean, listen, he's a professional. I think he's always looking forward to going to every game and scoring anyway. He had that attitude with Albrechts Negata last season when he picked up all those goals. But always, I think, coming up against your former side, there's a new group of Albrechts Negata players. You kind of still want to show as well that even though you've moved on, you're still well capable of sort of hurting them. I'm sure he'll be appreciative of the fact that they brought him in, and that's Albrechts Negata's model anyway, bringing players so that they can move on. So it's not like there's going to be hard feelings about it. He's actually used that platform to move on to bigger and better things in terms of maybe his salary package with the Lion City Sailors. He's going to be a player that they have to keep an eye out on because he's gotten off to a great start with the Sailors, and with him leading the line, the Sailors actually look a lot more mobile than they did with Kim Shin-Wook in there last season. And he seems to be able to link the play a lot better whenever I've seen him up front for the Sailors on a couple of occasions already. So he will be a key player for the Sailors in this one.
Now, Sailors and Albrechts, every time they've played in the league, Sailors have really struggled. In fact, they've not managed to beat them in the league.
Yeah.
Do you think that stat is going to affect them, or is it going to pop up again this week?
Yeah, it's strange. They've been in the league, Lion City Sailors, since 2020 when the club was sort of founded in that sense. And in the league, they haven't been able to beat Albrechts Negata.
Why is that so, though?
The only time they've been able to beat Albrechts is that once in the Community Shield. Why is that so? That's a great question. I think it boils down to Albrechts Negata having a lot of quality year in, year out. And it, again, says a lot about Albrechts Negata, the fact that 2020, 2021, 2022, now 2023. It's different teams essentially, but that record still persists. It's a great question that you asked me. I mean, it's difficult to kind of sort of put my finger on it, but from what I've seen in terms of the play when the two sides come together, Albrechts are able to match up in terms of the technical ability with the players that they do bring in. Great scouting, of course, and great development that they come from in Japan. That's seen there. They're able to match up in terms of the tactics. They're able to obviously match up in terms of the fitness levels as well, and maybe exceed in that regard, even in the fitness level. So perhaps that's why Albrechts, even though they've had different squads throughout the years, have just had that edge over the Lion City Sailors. I have to say there have been a few draws between those two sides, but Albrechts certainly have the upper hand over the Sailors.
Well, let's talk about Thursday's other games. The Young Lions up against Tampines Rovers. Young Lions, their first home game of the season, they've struggled the season, especially defensively. 10 goals in the opening 3 matches. How do you see Felipe trying to organize the squad now?
It's tough. I've spoken about the young Lions previously. It's a tough job to have. You've got players in there who sometimes aren't showing up for training because they've got other commitments, national service commitments and matches, and so it's a lot of rotation. You don't exactly have a settled
rotated
side.
Goalkeeper as well last week.
Rotated goalkeeper. You don't exactly have a settled side or a settled lineup to really work with, and that can be very disruptive when you're playing against professional teams. I expect them to find it difficult again against Tampines Rovers. So it's going to be a challenge. I mean, how is he going to line up his side? He's got to still stick to sort of the principles at play here in terms of how they want to go on and develop players in the longer run. And they have, principles of play, whatever syllabus it is. They've got to try and stick to those principles and make sure the players try and follow that. But yeah, I mean, look, it's such a big gap in the quality at the moment, such a big gap in experience when the young Lions come up against the other sides in the league. So I expected this struggle, but you hope to see some improvement as the weeks go by.
But we're talking about Tampines now. Faiz Ramli, second goal of the season. Boris Kapitovic off the mark as well. Yeah. What do you make of the performance against Tanjong Pagar, and how do you think this sets them going forward?
I thought it was brilliant against Tanjong Pagar. I thought the performance was just so good. They were in control in sort of different phases of the game. I was going to say both phases, but even in the transitional moments, the 4 phases of the game, they were actually in control of that because of how good they were with their counter pressing. The moment they lost it, they were quick to try and win it again, and the team was structured very well. They were close to each other in the units, in the lines. They squeezed the spaces very well, and there was quick reactions to whenever Tanjong Pagar will win it, take it off a Tampines player. There were players in and around to try and win it again. Tanjong Pagar didn't quite show the quality on the counter-attack to really threaten Tampines Rovers, but it was really impressive. I mean, again, Tampines, I've said this for a while now under Gavin, they look like such a good side, really fun to watch, technical quality very high, tactically very fun, but I think they'll be very happy with the way they manage the game out of possession. So I think they go into this as favourites, heavy favourites to go on and win 3 points.
Let's shift our attention to Friday's fixtures. Tanjong Pagar play Geylang International. Geylang International surprised league leaders after 3 games. They staged their comeback win against Hougang, the final 30 minutes, yielding 2 goals for them. What did you make of that performance, and what do you think of this Geylang side going into this Tanjong Pagar game?
I feel like with this Geylang side, they have spells in the game where they are really on it and they're switched on, and at some spells where they sort of just switch off a little bit and allow the opposition into the game, which is understandable. There are teams in the league who have those issues as well. But with Geylang, what I see is there's quite a bit of fight in that side. We saw it last season, even though they've got a small squad. And this time around, they've got a small squad as well in terms of experienced players being able to come in. So the fact that they have a bit more in attack now, the likes of Shafiq Ghani in there can come on off the bench and help. I think gives this Geylang squad an overall boost in terms of trying to helping Noor Ali change matches as it goes on. So encouraging signs. And the fact that Bezukor scoring goals, making a big difference, full of confidence. Yamaya looks good as well. Bodes well for Geylang going forward.
So moving on to the final game of the week is Brunei DPMM versus Balestier Khalsa. Brunei are going to be playing their home games, their first 3 home games in Singapore at Jalan Besar Stadium. How much of an impact do you think that's going to have on Brunei, especially considering the fact that they've not played competitive football in quite a while, proper competitive football?
That's right. I mean, they have been playing in their own domestic league, but it's quite different. I think playing in the SPL, it is of a higher standard, and I think fitness levels are different.
And it showed against the Sailors in the final 20 minutes or so.
It showed. It looked like they got a little bit tired, got a little bit fatigued. Adrian Pennock, their coach, I think after the match said that it was okay in terms of performance. There were some aspects that he was happy with, some not quite happy with. But I think what he'll take away from that is for their first outing in the league, it was all right. It was a start. There's something to sort of build on. I don't think they were overawed or they weren't really outclassed, so it wasn't like that. And with more work on the training ground, with more exposure to the league, getting more minutes under their belt, I think will help them along.
So DPMM face a Balestier side who've picked up their first 3 points. They beat the Young Lions 3-1 last week. And a key highlight from that was Taniguchi with an incredible assist for Ho Wai Loon. How important is he to this Tiger side, Roshan?
Really important, really important. I remember it's on the commentary and I mentioned about having these goosebumps. And it wasn't because I'm in the presence of greatness, right, with you on the show. But it was watching some really quality football, and he's so important to Balestier Khalsa because of his ability in those attacking areas to create something and to create chances and to score goals himself as well.
A quick one about him. That's the fact that they've moved to Bishan Stadium on a better pitch as well.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think that plays a part in his game as well?
Yeah, I mean, that certainly helps. Certainly helps, especially a player of his technical quality and ability. Definitely helps. I mean, well, I guess talking about pitches and the quality of it is for a discussion for another time. But yeah, it definitely does help. But going back to his importance and back to that pass in terms of what he saw, and to be able to get your head up, see that run, he's calculating very quickly in his mind exactly where I need to put it so that Ho Wai Lun can continue on with his run and he doesn't have to break his stride. And there's very little sort of gap for him to get it into. We see sometimes players able to see what needs to be done, but executing it technically, sometimes it's overhit, sometimes it's underhit. So he just showed exactly how important he is to this Balestier Khalsa side, especially, if Sugita's missing. They need a player like Taniguchi in there creating chances for them in attacking areas.
And a quick one, you mentioned on commentary as well, that was your early contender for assist of the season. Do you think there should be an award at FAS Awards night or Playmaker of the season? Perhaps?
I think that would be really fun. We had so many assists last season, and Lestien would have easily won it, right? But also, I think in terms of assists of the season, that would be really fun to look at. Sometimes goal scorers get a lot of credit for the goals that they score, and let's say a player dribbles past three and then sets up a tap in for the player who scores the goal. He doesn't really sort of get the same credit come the end of the season. I think it's something fun. I think it's something that potentially could be looked at. Look, Lestien again will be right up there. He's put in some great assists already this season. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we just want to see lots of these really high quality guys in our league, strutting their stuff.
Well, that's something definitely worth considering. Now let's look ahead to what our feature game of the week is. It's the big one. It's Albirex Niigata up against Lion City Sailors. Coverage begins from 7:15 p.m. Rish Roshan Rai will be there with Colette Wong to bring you all the team news as we build up to kickoff. So you can catch all the action live on our YouTube channel. Don't forget the games are on Thursday and Friday. We'll catch you in the next episode of SPL Express. Take care.